Welcome to The Founder's Mind. This is your host, Adam Muchler. On this episode, I have Arjita Sethi, co-founder of Equally, a platform focused on improving access to equal education and opportunities for everyone. Arjita dives into her background as an entrepreneur and how her passion for education has propelled her forward in her work. Most recently, Arjita and her team have launched DaVinci Club AR, a game to help kids learn by engaging with their environment. Listen in as Arjita shares the ins and outs of founding a growing business. Arjita, thank you for joining me on The Founder's Mind.
Oh, thank you so much, Adam, for having me.
I'm really excited to dive into what you're working on. But my first question is, how was it the Slush Conference?
Oh, yes. Yeah. We just finished the Slush Conference and we are part of an education accelerator here in Finland. And our demo day was on Slush. That was like the last day of the accelerator.
What was that like?
The accelerator?
The demo day. I mean, it kind of working towards something for 3 months.
Oh, yeah. That was intense. It was really great. We got a lot of great feedback. It was a direct, it was the first time that we had gone in front of such a huge audience of investors who kind of had an idea of what we were building because they had seen our pitches 12 weeks ago. And now that they saw that we were launched and we have traction and everything. So it was really great validation from them. And they really liked the progress. So it was exhilarating. At the same time, it was thinking 12 weeks is a long time.
That is a long time.
Yeah.
I think, I know we talked about it before, which is why it was top of mind for me, but it would be great to hear in your words a little bit about you and the company that you're building so that, listeners can get an idea of who they're listening to.
Yeah. So I am originally from India. I was born and raised there. When I was in high school, I was deciding what I wanted to do, whether or not to go to college. And in India, you have these choices that you make. You either become an engineer or a doctor, a lawyer, or a teacher. Those are the 3-4 things that if you're intelligent, you're supposed to do. However, I did not know if any one of those were for me. So I started talking to my parents. And after seeing so much of unemployment in India, my mom and we got together and started a vocational school where we would train people who had the degrees of engineering and medicine, but would not get jobs because they did not know how to speak English. Mm. So we started training them. The school is still running, and we train about 10,000 people a year who come to just learn how to speak English. So those were my early days, but of course I was in India, so I had to go to college. So I went I did my undergrad in physical therapy at the same time. I did not ever know how that's ever going to help me, except having a piece of paper that says I'm a graduate. I went to college. But now it's all coming back and making sense in what I'm actually building. So I think connecting the dots really made sense. But then 5 years after running that school for 7 years, I moved to San Francisco because I wanted to build a company that uses technology because I was running into issues of scale. The school in India was a brick and mortar building, and you cannot train more than 10,000 people. And I knew technology was the answer to that.
So in your world, 10,000 people wasn't enough.
Oh, well, India has 1.2 billion people. 10,000 people are nowhere enough.
I mean, because by a lot of metrics, 10,000 people a year is a lot of people, for any kind of business or program.
Yeah. I mean, I learned that actually very recently because when we built an MVP last year of the product that we actually launched now, we tested out our MVP with 12,000 kids in 5 countries. And whenever I say that number, everybody is pretty alarmed, but not in a bad way. They're pleasantly surprised, but they're kind of shocked. Like, what? 12,000 people you tested out your product with? So I'm just realizing that, in the rest of the world, these numbers are really big.
Yes. I just wanted to call that out because I appreciate your perspective, but also that's not a small feat, building a school that processes 10,000 students a year.
Yeah. Thank you.
So you moved to San Francisco.
Yeah, I moved to San Francisco. That's actually a story. When I was running the school in India, it was 2013. And I was really frustrated by the fact that I could not reach more people. And I started talking to this person on Facebook Messenger who was in San Francisco, and he was working at Zynga, the gaming company. And he was a software engineer there, moving into product management. And he said, I'm doing this great, awesome job that I love, but I'm not creating an impact, and he was very attached to the fact that he wanted to solve world illiteracy. And that's when he and I started talking, and we realized that our passions are similar. And I could use my education expertise, and he could use his gaming background, and we could together come up with an idea that makes education technology that reaches everyone.
Mm-hmm.
We chatted for about 3 months, and we decided that we both have the same passions. We fell in love online. He came to India, proposed to me. I said yes. We got married, and within 9 months, I moved to San Francisco in 2014 January. So
a life partner and a business partner.
Yeah, exactly, right? So I keep telling people that, we got married because of the startup idea. And that's really a fact, because that's how we started talking to each other. We had gone to the same high schools, but we went 2 years apart. So we never knew each other then, knew of each other. But then I moved to San Francisco in 2014 and started doing my master's in social entrepreneurship, and started working on this business idea. I couldn't start a business because I was on a sponsored visa, and Anshul, my co-founder and husband, he was on a sponsored visa as well. So we just started it as a side project. Mm-hmm. And we kept testing it out with parents, with kids, failed a number of times, and we're quite happy with that failure, actually, because it made us realize that we are headed into the right direction. And we kept, testing it out. We went to India a couple of times to test out the applications we were building. I went to many schools in San Francisco and the Bay Area. And
Let me ask you a question, because you mentioned you were happy with the failure because it kind of indicated that you were heading in the right direction. What do you mean by that? Because I think people's relationship with failure, there can be a lot of baggage with that.
Oh, yeah. For us, it was always the fact that, okay, great, this is not working. We are done with an approach that's not working. So we are only going to head towards something that's going to work. All right, we checked another failure out of our list. This is also not working. Let's think of something else that's working. So our attachment was to the problem that, kids are not getting access to education. Kids are having a passive experience while on technology. So those were the issues that we wanted to solve instead of creating a great product. Yes, we want to create a great product, but at the same time, we attached ourselves to the problem instead of our solution. So we were really happy when things were not working, because it just felt we were getting closer to the solution.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what is it that you're working on? Because I know you have this background in building this educational institution in India, and the degrees that you have, and education has been the focus. What are we talking about?
Yeah. So I am the co-founder of Equally. We are a public benefit corporation based out of San Francisco. Our mission is to give equal education and opportunities to everyone. And our first product that we launched last month is called DaVinci Club AR. DaVinci, because he is a polymath, a master of all the subjects. So in my opinion, education cannot be given or imparted in subjects like math, physics, or English. It can be given as concepts and experiences. So that's why that name. But what we do is we are an augmented reality experience for kids to actually explore the real world and physically move. And while they are connecting with their real friends on the platform, they are learning literacy and basic English. So the problem that we wanted to solve is that kids these days are on device, and the device has become like an idiot box. They are getting addicted. They're not moving. They're just, constantly glued to the screen, forgetting about the world. And their necks, if you see, are just getting bent all the time. They're not even standing straight. And at the same time, kids anywhere in the world are at the mercy of a school or a teacher. But, devices are getting to them. All they need is a device with a camera, and now they can learn. So those were the two issues that this product solves for us.
That's amazing. I think about that a lot. I think that devices are great tools, but they can also be these crutches. And more often than not, they're a crutch or a distraction.
Yeah. And again, I said earlier that I did not understand why I did physical therapy. And for a while, I was lost after I graduated from my undergrad. But now I'm actually using that background to count the number of steps and, make sure the kids' well-being is involved at the same time as they are getting educated. And we are creating these wellness reports for kids that we're giving to teachers and parents and showing them that, if they use, let's say, any other application or they watch TV, they don't do anything except consume the content passively. But when they're on DaVinci Club, this is the difference that it makes. These are the number of steps they took. These are the number of friends they have. And these are the things that they're exploring around the world.
That's incredible. So how did you get to this product or this platform? I mean, like when you look at your LinkedIn, I think you have one of the longest lists of experiences that I've seen. I mean, there's just like mentoring, speaking, delegate, like co-founders, all sorts of stuff. You've really done a lot. But how did you distill all of that and find yourself with Equally, which is a great name, and you have a great domain, by the way.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah.
And then to specifically DaVinci Club.
Yeah. I mean, it actually goes back to the idea that I wanted to give education not in terms of just being a teacher and teaching a subject. I wanted things to become accessible to people. The moment there is accessibility, people figure out what they want and they figure out opportunities. But this access is what is a problem, and it's not just a problem in India or other developing countries. It is a problem even where I live in San Francisco, where I see only there is a section of society that has access to everything, and you just keep seeing those kind of people being successful over and over again. But the moment we start redirecting resources to other people, you start seeing a change, in the kind of people that are becoming successful, in the kind of people that are actually making it to colleges or starting businesses or getting funded. So my whole idea has always been, if this gives access to someone, I am in. And I have been trying to find out what exactly I want, but anything that I'm really passionate about, I've said yes to. So I've been a co-founder at Startup India, which was a company that gave access to grassroots entrepreneurs in India to funding and mentorship, because in rural India, they don't have things like Y Combinator or other ideas on how to start a business, but they have cool ideas. Mm-hmm. So anytime in my life when somebody said this is going to give access to someone who doesn't have it, I said yes. And that's why anytime I was called to mentor or to speak, without thinking, what is the monetary success of that or how that's going to actually impact me, I've said yes to it. But eventually I realized that, and I think this has been a long time coming in the last 1.5 years, that I can actually put all my experiences together and work in Equally. And that's why Equally is now finally become, in the last, I would say, 8 months, my full-time thing, where I know I can use my physical therapy background, my education background, my entrepreneurship background, everything in this one company. And I think that's how we came to DaVinci Club, to Equally. But how we came to DaVinci Club is a different story, because last year we became one of the semifinalists for the Global Literacy X Prize that was sponsored by Elon Musk. It's a $15 million prize that is out there. It's a challenge for anyone who could build a solution for kids who don't have schools or teachers. So basically, that is the point when I started realizing that no matter how much content I make or we make as a company, there would always be someone for whom that content isn't going to be relevant. So what do? How can I teach a child in Tanzania and in India and in Silicon Valley at the same time? And then I realized we can just use the camera of the phone and the kids can just learn from their surroundings. So I don't really have to personalize content. The kids' surroundings and environment is going to personalize that. So those are the things that, one by one, that's why I talk about failure often. So we became one of the semifinalists and we did not win that competition. But that learning for me that I could actually use the device camera and make it personalized for kids was huge.
Yeah. I mean, I think just listening to you talk, talking about, failure helping you hone the direction that you're moving a product or a company in, and just saying yes and being in rooms and in conversations and having access, to certain communities just by saying yes, when the little inquiries come in.
Yeah.
I think about that a lot in my own work, showing how do we show up and how do we follow up with opportunities.
Yeah.
On Equally's website, there's under the blog section, it looks like a TEDx talk, thoughts, and I'm looking at the title, Thoughts About the Bottom Billion on a Smart Device.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
That was a talk I gave back in 2015.
Yeah. Well, I literally never considered that until I literally read that headline.
Nice.
So it sounds like this is something you've been thinking about for a little while.
Yeah. Even the vocational school that I started in India it came out of the problem that, okay, I might get an engineering degree or medicine degree, but there are so many people in the country who have that, but they are not getting jobs. And, there is unemployment. So if the thing was English language for them. And then we started seeing all these people getting access to phones, which became overnight very cheap. And they were reading messages in English, and we started sending them messages. So, and the penetration in developing countries of technology is really great because in the US, if you see, they started with, computers, desktops, then laptops. But when you go to a developing country, when they have not seen a desktop computer or a laptop, they are just seeing a smart device. Mm-hmm. They are straight away going to phones. They're straight away using the camera and WhatsApp. There are almost 1 billion people on WhatsApp right now. And most of them come from developing countries.
Yeah.
So that is the power that we can actually use. We cannot send resources or we cannot send high talent or great teachers or schools there, but we can give them access through internet and technology.
So you're in this accelerator. You started this. When did you start Equally and the DaVinci Club, and what are the different programs that you've been through that have really helped?
So we started the company in 2016, and we at that time we were on a sponsored visa, so it was just a side hustle, practically how every other company starts in Silicon Valley. So we started as a side hustle, and we gave ourselves this goal that within 6 months we are going to raise, $2 million, and we're going to be full time. We'll be able to sponsor our own visa, and that'll be it. 6 months passed, and nothing happened. We actually started, thinking of doing fundraising, crowdfunding, nothing happened. And then we realized, oh, wait, my co-founder has a tech job. So we bootstrapped all that money, gave that money to our company and started building the company because at that time, no accelerator would take us because they want founders to be full-time.
Yeah.
And no government agency would give us a grant because we were not Americans. And no investor would put in money because, we had not built anything or had any traction. So we realized that we had to be our own funders at that time. But I think the change came when we registered for the Global Learning X Prize. That was one of the first earlier programs that we registered in 2016, late 2016. And after that, we got a lot of traction. We tested out our early alpha with about 5,000 children. and then started applying. Last year, we applied to Y Combinator, where we got selected for the interview, and we were called back for another interview. So that was a great validation. We didn't get through the final stage because, again, we were not full-time and we couldn't figure how to do that. But this year, again, we've been part of something called the Founders Gym. And that was really helpful because Mandela, I've been following her work, the founder of Founders Gym. I've been following her work for a while. In fact, 3 years ago, I interviewed for her when she was at Startup Weekend. So that was very interesting when I filled up the form and I was like, wait, what, Mandela is running this? Oh, great. So that was great that, this entire ecosystem is pretty small, and I've probably come a full circle. I'm meeting the same people again and again. So, but that happened, and Founders Gym gave us a really great platform to actually start building out our initial stages of fundraising and even deciding whether or not fundraising was the best way for us to go. And that is the time I remember January when the first cohort graduated of Founders Gym. We realized that we're not going to fundraise right now because we have enough savings. Let's see how much savings we have. Let's save that and let's run this company, launch a product and see how it goes. And then the Y Combinator Startup School program came up and we applied for that, and we got great resources and advisors. And finally, in September, we applied for, we got through this Finnish Accelerator. And when we did, the investors who had heard our interview virtually actually wanted to invest in us even without meeting us. So that was a great validation. And, when you're not fundraising and you get to fundraise, I think that moment happened with us and backed us. So at this point, we are like, okay, should we openly say we are fundraising or we shouldn't? But that's been our story so far. We've got our angel round done. We've got an investor backing us. We are getting a couple of more investors backing us now. So I think over the period of 2 years, we've got through these weird understandings of the fact that it's money will come, keep building. It's how long can you survive? So we've tried to put or elongate our runway as much as possible. Mm-hmm. It's very difficult being in Silicon Valley doing that because it's one of the most expensive places to live in. But if you can do that, money would come. It's how long can you stay in the game? It's literally that.
Yeah. So you did Founders Gym, the Y Combinator Startup School, and this accelerator in Finland all this year?
All this year. In fact, the Y Combinator Startup School and this program of XEDU in Finland was happening at the same time. So it was pretty mad. But Founders Gym in January, earlier this year.
And what was, that sounds like a lot. So it sounds like there's this acceleration, obviously. And there's a saying that I think really rings true in part of your story towards the end was, ask for money and get advice, and ask for advice and you get money. When you weren't looking for money, it sounds like money started finding its way to you, which is probably not everyone's experience, but that's very exciting that happened.
Yeah. Although I don't really go with the fact that ask for advice and you'll get money, because you never do. At least not for me. But I don't know if it has worked for someone that is great. I say that if you want money, then prove why people should give it to you.
Yeah.
And that proof is very important. And that proof actually comes in a lot of skills as an entrepreneur, not just showing traction and not just showing success, but showing that you've been here for a long time. When I started off building Equally, I was very new. And now that people have seen me doing this at least for 2.5, 3 years, they know I'm not going away. So that builds credibility. And that gives a lot of trust to people when they are actually wanting to put in money. The other thing is, how well do you negotiate? What are you raising that money for? Most of the entrepreneurs, and I'm just using a little bit of things that I mentor other entrepreneurs, early stage entrepreneurs, or the entrepreneurs in India that I mentor. Most of the entrepreneurs think if they get money, they will get successful. And that is not how it happens. You get money because you have a plan, or you at least have some assumptions that you're going to go towards this direction.
Mm-hmm.
Getting money doesn't confirm success. And that is why I think that is a lesson I have learned over a period of time.
Yeah.
That, I'm raising this money to reach my next milestone. And that is the exact milestone. Having that clarity is very, very important. And negotiating, because it's your company. At the end of the day, an investor is seeing how good of a business person you are. Did you negotiate for the equity real good? And you can only do that if you have some runway in your bank and you're not at the mercy of how do I get through the next month. So have enough to just sustain yourself for as long so you can negotiate the right way and be the entrepreneur.
Yeah, I think there were some really incredible distinctions that you just made in those comments. One of them is, if you're looking for money, proving your product or proving what you'll do with it, not just asking for it and saying, I need it so I can do X, Y, and Z. It's like, I've done these things and money would help do the next thing,
Yeah.
And you said something else and it escaped me, unfortunately. So I'll just have to listen back. But, I think that that was the other piece. And I just talked to someone about this. Sticking with something,
Mm-hmm.
right? Sticking with sticking with a company, sticking with a brand or a business idea, whether it's viral or not, over time, to your point, you do build credibility.
Yeah.
And people start introducing you to people that they weren't before,
Mm-hmm.
and people start, sending resources your way that they didn't before, mostly because in the beginning, they may not know, are they going to be around for 3 months? Are they going to be around for 6 months? Once you start hitting that 1, 2, 3 year mark, people are like, okay, they're clearly committed to this work, and it helps open doors. I totally agree.
Yeah. And I think that is what has helped us, because a lot of people who wouldn't respond to our emails early on, almost 2 years ago, are now responding. And they may still not have given us the money, but they've given us way more than money, I would say. Some of our advisors in our company are people who wouldn't have come early on, but now that they see that we've been doing this and this is what we are going to do for a long time, they actually want to be associated and be our ambassadors. And I think that is a great value add.
Yeah, that relationships are so important.
Absolutely.
A mantra that I really hold close is relationships precede results.
Yeah, absolutely. I second that. Yeah.
Well, I'm always curious, is there a piece of advice that you've received along your journey with Equally that really stands out, that's had an impact on you?
Yeah. I mean, I would say my mentor has been my mom, because she was the entrepreneur in my family and I saw her, and she still is the entrepreneur. And she is actually thinking of restarting and rebranding her entire business now at the age of 52, which is incredible, I feel. And she had always told me that, have that courage, even if it is scary, have that courage. Show up to things that, you would not go to, or do things that other people are not doing. Have that courage to choose different things in life. And I remember our earlier conversation when I had said, I don't know if you remember, that I got lucky. I got lucky because I was brave. I have always said yes to opportunities without thinking, oh my God, this is going to be very difficult. So that is one advice that I have always followed is, am I doing this? Can I do this? Am I brave enough to do this? And I have always chosen the path that others would not. And that has, I think, made all the difference. So I think she is someone who's an inspiration in my life. And if she can do it at the age of 52 and not be scared, I can do it now. I can always do it. So just having that courage. And of course, being a Potterhead, I think everything that Dumbledore ever said to Harry Potter. Is my piece of advice. It is not your abilities, it's the choices you make in life. So I would leave it that.
I love it. I think that's a great place to conclude. It's just such great advice.
Yeah.
Personal and fictional, but in real life. I really appreciate having you on the show and you taking the time to share some of your experience. The parting comments would be just, where can people follow along in your work? Where do you want to point listeners to Equally, DaVinci Club? How can they check it out?
Yeah. So you can follow me on Instagram or Twitter, and I respond really fast on those two platforms. DaVinci Club is available on app stores. So if you go ahead and say DaVinci Club AR, you would find the application. It's free for the first month. So go ahead, give me feedback. I'm always open to it. And my email is arjita@equal.ly. So that's the email. So just go for it. Contact me if you have any feedback. And thank you so much, Adam, for having me. It has been a pleasure. And, your questions are making me think so much that I'm actually going to think a little bit more for a while now.
I appreciate that. I really appreciate you being on the show, Arjita. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Adam.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Founder's Mind. Check back later this week to hear from Arjita and why she took her team to Finland so her ed tech company could get the resources and attention it truly deserved. To make sure you don't miss any awesome wisdom from guests and stay up to date on the most recent episodes of the show, be sure to visit thefoundersmind.com. You can also follow along on social at The Founder's Mind. Last but not least, thank you to Roy Matz for the music on this show and his dope editing skills that make The Founder's Mind possible. Until next time, take care.
Going through all of this insanity and try to bring new ideas, make them a reality. Illuminate in the thoughts, make it a priority to implement what you learn. What you get is what you be. In a world full of noise, hard to find that clarity to try to lead subtly, never full of vanity, and try to change something small or try to change humanity. Power forward through the dark, founder's mind is what you see. Founder's mind is what you see.